Yeah, guys, actually.
Hello everyone, and thank you for joining us on this live that has taken us so long to get us both here. So I was just saying, I'm very reactive. I have an idea and then I want to take action on it immediately, and this is what this is. But I'm hoping this is the beginning of a longer journey of conversations all around empowering your voice. I want to explore how we use our speaking voices, how we express ourselves, how we connect with our inner voice. So I'm going to invite lots of guests on. This is Gemma. Welcome.
Hi, guys.
I've known Gemma for a while, and I thought we could start with you telling us some background around your relationship with your voice.
Oh, so I know Tommy through singing, and she and I did a workshop, like a retreat workshop in Ireland. I invited her over to my singing school at the time. But I've always had a strong identity as a singer, as a performer, and that turned into a little bit of comedy as a hobby. I've always enjoyed being on social media and public facing, and have a desire constantly to self-express. And sometimes it manifests as me now writing on Substack, or maybe writing a poem. My creativity has to flow out of me, and I'm playing around with different mediums, but the primary medium is my voice, and being heard and being understood. And teaching is another form of my voice being heard, but it's like a core need of mine, and I get a lot of enjoyment out of it. But it also means so much to me that sometimes it can become a heavy thing, and I can sometimes get a bit stifled and stuck with it as well. So it's a huge part of my life.
Mm-hmm. Why do you think, have you noticed a pattern of when it tends to get stuck or stifled?
Yeah, I suppose it's that different. It's knowing the difference between being performative and just being authentic or present, and getting a little bit caught up in how I'm being received and how I want to be received and perceived by others. Having lots of different um, audience types in my group, peers I'm trying to impress, or people I'm trying to speak to. Just get in my head with my own self-judgment and self-doubt. And I suppose I'm constantly evolving and changing, and my voice and perspective is always changing and evolving too. And sometimes I get caught in the trap of, I create an audience for a certain type of expression, or type of concept or idea. For example, vocal coaching was a big topic for me, and I created an audience for that on different social media platforms, but I outgrew it as a topic and I didn't want to talk about it anymore. But I found myself just continuing to speak on the topic to maintain the audience that I had created, and I had to play the part of myself in the past, which became more and more difficult and tiring, until the point where I just had to take a big break and disappear. And I'm really only starting to find my way back again, where I get to be the person that I am now, and I get to express as who I am now, and not have to play the part of who I was.
That's so interesting, isn't it? Because I reckon people could relate to the idea of doing that in their work, but also maybe doing that in their life. So like being perceived as a certain type of person or a certain character or the certain dynamic within a friendship group, but yeah, or also in the work that you're doing, particularly if you create your own work and you are your own, if you're a founder of something. So I wonder how you've then moved away from, so how you can recognize that, and then how you sort of shape shift your way out of it. Has that been really difficult? Because you did do, like, the things you were sharing online, you went viral on TikTok. There were things that people were really engaged with. So did that feel difficult, and how did you step away or sort of make that shape shifting happen?
Yeah, I think what I'm nervous about is what's performative and what's real for me right now. Like what's really coming from the intention of, good, giving, love, alignment, and what's me performing because I want something to work or go well or be perceived well, and what's really performing from my heart. And I've been stumbling with that and trying to get really clear on my genuine intention, and paying attention to it in my day-to-day life, in interactions, be it in a professional sense or in a personal sense, where I'm like outwardly agreeing, but internally going, I actually don't. I wish I called that out. So it's being in alignment with how you really feel about things and getting into the habit of speaking out, or really like maybe sometimes being quiet, and I suppose not leaning into any self-abandoning or people pleasing. And so it starts small in those little interactions, so that when you go to a bigger scale of amplifying your voice online, you're more used to being in alignment with how you truly feel about yourself, about the world, about the topic that you're speaking on.
I noticed when you were just describing that there's a part that's like behavior, so how you're being with other people, that interaction, but also the word feel you said a few times, and I was going to ask you that. It's like, are you tuning into how you really feel about something? Because I think sometimes we can be, if we're using the word performative, we can be sort of living on this sort of surface level habitual things that we've done before, but how often are we actually noticing how we feel? So like, I don't know, if I see really old good friends, I'm pretty sure I'm going to come away feeling like I expressed myself in the way that I wanted to, really honestly, and then feeling a sense of joy, but there's almost like a physical feeling of like, I'm like lifted up, and so I suppose it's, what are the signals you're noticing or looking out for in behavior and feel and emotion?
Yeah. I mean, the energetic of it is the main signal. Like, am I drained or am I energized? Because it's very tiring to maintain a mask and then underneath keep the real feeling at bay. Like there's an activeness to pushing down how you really feel, and an activeness to propping up the thing that's going to avoid confrontation and be best for the group on the outside. So, I feel like for me, it's been my key has been come back to the breath and slow down, and actually speak a lot less. I'm trying my best not to speak before I feel, and then allow myself to fall into flow where I'm very chatty and flowy, but to slow it down, to interrupt the pattern of, like you're saying, these almost unconscious reactions, responses, habits, behaviors.
Mm. And I obviously know that you've moved home in the last, like this year.
Yeah.
I'm wondering, so it's so interesting to me that the awareness you've got around all of this, how where you are right now, like being
Mhm.
in Ireland and at home, and then how that's probably going to feed into your work again, because it's you,
Mm.
the whole person, right? We're not talking about only when we're with friends or only when we're with family or only when we're at work. It's all of it as one whole picture. And I suppose I'm excited at the thought of encouraging people to maybe take some reflection on this,
Mm.
seeing yourself as one whole picture or one whole voice. And when I say voice, I don't just mean the voice, the sound, the auditory, but
Mm.
it's you as a being, really, isn't it?
Mhm.
So yeah, how has it been moving from London back home, and how's that impacted it, do you think?
Oh, it's you know, it's a challenge, and it's a great challenge. Those I mean, family and close friends, people who've known me from school. Obviously, my mother, I'm in close interaction with her a lot now. Um, the triggers will come up, and the unconscious reactions will happen sometimes. But I'm when the emotion is in motion, sometimes I don't correct in the moment. but I have the grace of my friends and family where I'm able to go back in again and go, you know what I actually meant to say? And sometimes it can be standing up for myself more, and other times it can be being more empathetic, being more considerate, being more grounded, being more present. So sometimes I have to just return and correct, and sometimes I'm able to do it in live in the moment. But
Mhm.
I think the most important thing is just having that meta awareness of myself all the time now, like being observant of myself, going, oh, you said that from this place because you're avoiding feeling this emotion, or you said that because you picked it up wrong, or you fed that into this particular identity you have. So, yeah. And I think journaling, meditating, and spending time with your inner world and going, okay, what's happening in here? You know, like I did a meditation last night and I found it was one of the hardest meditations I've done in a while because it was so loud and busy. And I had to not judge that and just be able to observe it and go, wow, how loud and busy it is in here today. There are
Mhm.
lots of thoughts and judgments and fears. And that's fine. Some days are like that. But I'm glad that I'm now developing a relationship with myself and having ways of meeting myself, be it in meditation or journaling or yoga.
Mhm. Yeah, and I think I've made a bit more time for journaling this year, more than and a bit of movement, I suppose, like quite slow movement. Um,
Mhm.
and you know, we're living quite different lives in what our general setup is, as in like I've got
Mhm.
two young kids.
Mhm.
I know, like, for people watching, it might be, I think these things can feel a bit daunting. So I was going to say, it's like,
Right.
I think the starting point is having a sense of curiosity so that you're not
Mhm.
just blindly, if you don't feel completely like, I'm at one with myself, feel so fabulous and happy. I think there's some, yeah, curiosity to be had around who we are as people who, and I think I've always shown up with quite an honest voice. So people would always say as a friend, oh, you always say what you really mean and
Mhm.
you don't piss about, basically, quite direct and
Mhm.
upfront. So in some ways I think that gives me a sense of like, well, I've been really honest, so I can let it go a bit. But equally, I can go too far the other way, maybe, and not always be. I have to be aware of the sensitivity I have, but you know, for other people's sake. But my point being, just like a sense of curiosity around this, and it's not about, oh, I'm watching these two people talk about journaling and meditation. How good for them! They've like managed to show up for that, because it's not easy. So I know I'm like sometimes journaling and the kids are going, can you get me some more Weetabix? I'm like, oh, just trying to
Oh,
have that peaceful moment. But if I'm on the page, at least something's coming through.
yeah.
Um, so I think, yeah, curiosity, that's what I'm trying to say is, you know, if you're listening to this and you're, I suppose, curious about the things that we're talking on, it's just being able to explore just a tiny bit, even if it's not every day, if it's a couple of times a week, or
Yeah.
curious in the conversations you're having and how you have shown up in those conversations. Um, as we both have experience performing on stage and using our voices in music, it'd be cool to explore this performance versus presence on stage
Mm.
and how you've experienced that, like how, you know, the difference between the two when you're
Yeah.
on stage.
Yeah. I think one of the best pieces of advice I got from my teacher when I was in college was to get out of the way of the music. And that really clicked for me, to get out of that headiness. And the head will be saying, the high note, your breath, is the vibrato going here? And it would be very technical. And are you going to remember the words? And, that's a tricky bit coming up here. Head. Um, but so then there's a surrendering and a letting go and going, you know what, I actually trust myself that I have this and that I can allow myself to just surrender and be present in the moment, and the right thing is going to come through me. I'm going to be sung rather than I will sing it.
Mm,
And then when you're there, then you get to notice where you are. You get to notice the room, how you feel, the temperature, the piano player, how it's being, you're there, you're deeply in the moment. And then you're surprised. You're surprised by what happens, how it sounds, how it comes out. You are sung. And I had an experience of this at the 2 weekends ago. I was at a retreat, and it turned into a sing song at the end. And I actually had a really difficult evening in the retreat, a very emotional evening, and I really actually didn't want to sing. But I knew I was the only person in the room who had a professional singing background, and I thought it would be really odd if I didn't sing. And so I was like, oh God, I'm going to have to do it. And it was like one person sang, another person sang, and I was like, oh, it's my turn. I'm going to have to do this. And so I didn't know what I would sing, and I was like, okay, just see what happens. Open your mouth, see what happens. So I had a real experience of being sung then, despite how I felt. And what I noticed afterwards is that my body collapsed back down, and I didn't realize it had been raised up or opened up, or that something kind of took over me. And I suppose it's just this having these lovely experiences of being a channel, or having where you may ever in sport you'll experience it. It's just flow and allowing yourself to be tapped into for flow.
Yeah, and I think the word flow is like this sort of mystical place that people want to get to in performance. But I had so many thoughts when you were talking then about I experienced the same thing. It's like if you've done the prep and the practice, of course that's part of the process. But once you step onto the stage, you shouldn't be in that headspace. And like you say, it's that head thing. And you know, how often do we have critical thoughts or that sort of voice in our head that tells us something negative? I think if we stay in our head, then we tend to tap into that sort of narrative. And I know I've had experiences on stage where if I'm so in my head, I'll just be noticing the audience and what they're doing. And I think there's another part of this, that if it's something I've sung quite a lot of times, I would tend to get back to that more distracted space where I feel very passionate about people connecting with the song. And so it not necessarily being about practice or overthinking it, but actually, again, feeling. So we're back in that heart space of making sense of a song based on your life experience and how, you know, connecting back to an experience you've had where you've really felt. Because actually, if you're really feeling, you're kind of getting into that primal place of expressing sound. And I think you get to where you just described, where you're being sung, as you said, where it almost feels easier to get all the technical stuff right. Like when you're really in that primal place of expressing from emotion and feel, your voice will do what you need or want it to do as a result of the expression, rather than, oh, head, I've got a high note coming. How do I prepare for that note? And you get, you know, you can stumble. So hello to people that are joining the live. This is fun. I mean, I did a live on Substack the other day and I was like, ooh, this is fun. I haven't done this in a while. Let's have some more chat. If anyone has a question, feel free to chuck it in. And yeah, do I have another question for you? Any thoughts?
I think that what you're talking about with being, it's really scary. I know that I hid behind a lot of technical ability as a singer. I kind of distracted people with my riffing and my high notes and like very skillful, elaborate jazz or classical, because I'm scared of people actually seeing me, actually meeting me, actually hearing me. And so it's hugely brave to actually sing really from the heart, or you know, speak from the heart, and allow yourself to be surprised by yourself and for it to be emergent, because you're not in control anymore and you don't know who they're going to meet, because you're a different person. In the way that I went to meditation yesterday, I'm like, oh my God, I'm a crazy woman today. What's happening in here? But Friday I was very calm. You're going to meet the stage each time as a different version of you. So it's a surprise for you. So it's a real letting go.
Yeah.
But that's what people want, because then they feel it. And I used to give this advice to singers going on stage. I'm like, just give yourself goosebumps. Just make yourself feel it. Because if you do, they will by osmosis. And we don't care, like, you know how you might be a little bit better if you focus this way, or the little adjustments of better, they are so minor. They like, it's so indiscriminate. You might as well just surrender to being whatever it needs to be on in the moment.
And you're exact. I think I think the same as you. With if you can show up like that in how you express yourself, the connection we get through that vulnerability is pure gold. And whether you're singing and performing or you're actually just having your true opinion and sharing that with someone in any part of your life, you're offering out a way to connect with another human being, which is a need we have as humans anyway. So the more we can be brave and show up in that way, the more we're going to get something back. But then we're like creating an impact like that goes across the world. That's a ripple, like all the little micro connections we're creating. So I suppose, yeah, I'm just hitting on something that's like, that's why I'm so passionate about voice and us listening in and then projecting out in a really connected way. Like, it's important.
Really important to be, and it takes a lot of courage to tell the truth that way. To really tell your truth feels scary because there are consequences. Not everybody's going to get it, but some people, the ones who will get it, will really get it. But you have to be okay with that too. And I think judgment and self-judgment comes into play a lot as well. Like if you're quite judgmental of yourself, or if you notice yourself being judgmental of others, there's a mirroring effect to that. And so becoming somebody who's able to develop an awareness around judgments that you're making and let go and understand them better, to let them go. I think that's a huge part of the process of being a brave truth speaker.
Truth speaker. Speaker and a truth speaker. I like it. If there was one tip or step or piece of advice you'd want to leave for people with regards to living in presence with your voice, what would it be?
I think it's give yourself and others loads of grace. Loads of grace, loads of self-compassion and compassion for others. That's the way in. Love is the way. Like, as cliche and cheesy as that sounds, I always ask myself the question, where is this coming from? What's the intention? Is the intention love? Or is the intention, I'm scared I don't have enough money? Is the intention, I hope that they think that I'm cool? Or is the intention, I just want to give from a place of love because it feels good? Then I'm like, okay, that's it. Then I can speak from there. Peace and love.
Thank you, and thank you everyone for watching this. I'll be back with more conversations around empowering our voices, and I'm excited. If you're watching this and you think you'd like to join me for a chat, let me know. Or if you'd like to suggest someone for a chat, also let me know. And thank you, Gemma.
Thanks, Tommy.
Finally made it happen. That was so difficult.
Yeah, we did it.
Well done. All right. Bye, everyone.
Bye.